On this episode of Game Shack, I'm going to talk about the dark side of modding, and that is when you wreck equipment. This is my former pinball screen. How I got to this sad state of affairs, coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I'm your host, JDV, here for EvilGeniusEntertainment.com. Okay, before I jump into my sad tale of woe, let's do a little bit of news, and it's basically good. And good for a change for Arcade1up. It looks like the Marvel pinball games are starting to really trickle out now. People are starting to get them in some number. Mostly what I've seen is pretty good. A lot of people seem very impressed by it. If you kind of want a real gamer's look at it, go check out Bill's review over at Original Console Gamer. He has a full review. He's got a bunch of gameplay up there. And at least in my mind, very important, if you're interested in the solenoids and the haptic feedback and the way the ball moves when you move the machine, he has a video up on that, and that's very informative. So go check that out. Anyway, those games are out there, and it looks like the Star Wars games are starting to be, the Wave 2, I'll call it, are starting to trickle out now, so that's a little early, earlier than they said for this third or fourth delay. I'm starting to lose track. But anyway, if you have a Marvel or Star Wars pre-order that has not been fulfilled, take a look at your bank account and take a look at FedEx, because you might be getting that pretty soon, so that's all to the good. Also, all to the good is the fact that 500 more units of Mortal Kombat Legacy have hit the shores of the U.S. and presumably will be getting out into the hands of those pre-order people who pre-ordered it here, by the end of March. So that's good news. Now, the bad news is that all told, it looks like there's only 700 or 800 Mortal Kombats in this country, sum total right now, which is obviously not close to the total number of demand for that cab. But according to Arcade1up, all of the legacy cabs that are coming out are going to keep coming out. So even if it's run out now like it has for the Street Fighter, that's the kind of the cab I want, is the Street Fighter cab, just because it's the game I like more. I don't have to panic. That should be coming out again. If you want that Mortal Kombat game, you shouldn't panic. It should be coming out. If you want that Tempest game, that should be coming out again. In fact, I think Wave 2 is already come and gone, and Wave 3 should be coming soon, at least in terms of pre-orders. So that is good news, and that we're starting to see the bottleneck of some of these A1up games start to lessen up, and that's good. Also, good news is it looks like Waves 1 through 3 for AtGames Pinball are starting to be delivered now, and so that looks like that's on schedule. So you have the two real heavyweights in this market segment really starting to come through and start to deliver some stuff that people had been waiting for a long time. So that's good news. What isn't so good, and now to get to the meat of the episode, is the fact that I broke the monitor I was using for my virtual pinball build. Basically, I tried to decase it, and I super failed. Now, I have decased other things before, most notably these Dell monitors that I use in builds, the way that everybody uses. I guess what I didn't realize is that a TV monitor, depending on what brand you're getting, is much more fragilely put together. These Dells are built like tanks. You take off the shell, and it's basically all still there. Really, you'll have to worry about just the control panel being kind of hanging loose. But otherwise, the unit is metal, it's all very solid, and it's really tough stuff. In opposition to this TV that I got for exactly $108 from Walmart, and this is what I'm going to be using to replace the monitor I broke. Essentially, as I try to decase that TV I had, it's just disintegrated. I mean, there was no way for the unit to stay together without its plastic case. And there were so many screws and so many interconnecting latches that for me to really have taken it apart safely would have taken hours and hours and hours. And realistically, then I would have had something that was all but unusable anyway. So a word of warning to anybody looking at putting in one of these monitors. I know you can decase some of them, but it is really going to depend on really a unit by unit basis as to whether or not you can decase this thing safely. So my plan is with this guy, And again, this is the cheapest TV I can get to replace what I broke. I'm not going to decase it. I'm just not going to take that chance. I know some of them, and I'm guessing probably the higher end models are probably a little bit more beefy, but I'm guessing the $108 version I got from Walmart is not. So just a little bit more on that. I'm certainly not the only one to do this. I know Ralph has burnt out stuff, Kongs R Us has burnt out stuff, Doug at Cool Toy has burnt out stuff. So some guys who are much, much better at modding than I will ever be have had similar problems of burning out a monitor or burning out a board or something going wrong. Is you do have to kind of calculate that into this hobby or as a possibility if you are thinking about modding one of these A1up pinball games or modding anything, is that there is always a chance that either you're going to short something out or that just something's going to break in the process. And in my case, I didn't want to really take it apart, but I want to. You'll see a lot of this on TVs. Well, the bezel will be kind of thin at the top, but 3 or 4 times thicker at the bottom, and that was kind of the case for that monitor. So I'm like, geez, I want it to be as even as possible. I guess the best way to get it as even as possible is just remove the bezel entirely. Well, that was a bad idea on that particular model. Again, there might be better TVs. Who knows? Maybe this one I just got picked up. Well, I could take it apart, no problem, and put it in there. But I'm not going to take that chance. So really watch out for the TVs versus computer monitors. The computer monitors tend to be just a little bit, and they are more pricey, generally speaking, pound for pound. But it might be a way to go if you are really determined to take the bezel off. I would also say one other thing, if you're looking at using a TV monitor to put into your pinball game or mod your A1up, and that is at the bottom of the screen, and you can kind of see it there. You're gonna, I think you can see it there on the box. There's this little on-off switch. So you got to kind of calculate that in there in terms of, how big is that little on-off switch going to be? If they don't have an on-off switch there in the middle, they'll have like a little light sensor bar for the remote control. So you have to think about that when you're designing your build. So, that's really about it for this episode. I just want to, I'll be showing you kind of the updates hopefully next week. I have cut out the sides for my virtual pinball game, but I couldn't cut out the front and back and bottom because I didn't know exactly how wide my replacement screen was going to have to be. And so now that I have it, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to take it out of the box, I'm going to measure it, and then I'm going to cut out the front, back, and bottom. This should not be that tough because I'm definitely not going to be taking the bezel off of this one. Okay, well, thanks for watching this short episode of Game Shack. If you like this sort of thing, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next episodes come out. For fans of our films, Reanimated, the 4th episode, should be coming out by the end of March. It's a much bigger episode than any other episode we've done with almost 100 different zombies, and a whole lot of stuff goes on in that episode, so it's just a lot of work. So if you're looking for that, be patient. Me and Warpig will have more video game content coming out in Two Fat Drunks, including we talk about what is the best fighting game of all time, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. All right, love each other, everybody, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.